Automation is wreaking havoc on the labor market. But first, for all the naysayers out there, name me one industry that's booming. If you had an 18-year-old right here about to enter college, name me one industry, one occupation that you'd recommend they go into that has great long-term career prospects, pays well. I'll wait and post it in the comments right now. The reality is that the job market's more competitive than it's ever been, and it's only going to get more competitive. It used to be that you went to college, which was a lot easier to get into. You got your degree and it was pretty easy to get a job. Now, not only is getting into college a lot harder, but getting that job once you graduate is significantly harder because your degree almost means nothing now. And pretty much every field has gotten extremely saturated. Any field that actually pays a decent wage and has good long-term career prospects. Medicine, good luck getting into med school. Law, do I even need to explain? There's been a glut of lawyers since like 2000. Accounting, a lot of the low-level accounting work is being automated away by software. Finance, just look at a trading floor. They're virtually empty now. I think something like 80% of trading activity is done by robots and algorithms. I was a software engineer, which is probably the one field that's the least prone to automation because it's the job of the software engineers to automate away other work. And even this field is more competitive than it's ever been. The mantra that there's a tech shortage is complete bullshit. If you don't believe me, just interview for a coding position. Not only do you have to deal with the smuggest, most condescending personalities, but they fixate on these textbook-style academic trivia questions that often have absolutely nothing to do with the job. Coding interviews are the worst. That's part of the reason why I left. There's also severe ageism. If you're over the age of 40, it gets so much harder to find a job because there's such a severe bias for younger people. And with more and more tools allowing remote work, you're seeing more and more work being done remotely, which if a company is willing to hire remotely, then they're probably willing to outsource, hire somebody living in a cheap, low cost of living country in Eastern Europe, India, South America, and pay a fraction of the wages that they would pay for a fellow American. Now software engineering has basically become the de facto career choice for not only all engineers, like mechanical engineers and whatnot, but also just any kind of graduate. You've got history majors, English majors going into coding. You've got all these boot camps that have exploded over the last 5 years, and their placement rates are pretty shit right now compared to where they were. One of my friends who went to one of these boot camps in New York City, I think 5 years ago, after 6 months, like 90% of his cohort had jobs. Now it's like less than half. It's just getting more and more competitive. The bar is getting higher and it's an arms race to the bottom. You want to see what a tech shortage looks like? Look at the dot-com bubble. During that time, if you just claimed to know computers, you were hired. Not like that anymore. Companies aren't even willing to train people anymore because there are so many damn applicants that you don't have to. I mean, even in my last jobs, anytime I would post a job ad, I would get so many applicants, like 50 to 100 off of just like a little post somewhere. And I wasn't even working on big name companies. I would say probably 25 to 50% of those people probably could do the job reasonably well. But when you have 50 to 100 applicants, then you're gonna try to find the best person you can because why not if you have so many people fighting to work for your job? The sad reality is that pretty much all of us are replaceable. Now, I don't mean to spell doom and gloom. I'm not trying to depress you and make it sound like you can't have a good career, getting paid well, doing something you enjoy in any of these fields. Whatever you want to do, you can make a living doing it. All I'm saying is that it's getting more and more competitive every year, and inherently there's a shortage of these qualified jobs and people who want these jobs. The problem with people who say, oh, just work harder, is that this can't actually work for everybody. If there are only 10 jobs and there are 100 people who want these jobs, the 90 people are going to be screwed over regardless. So this advice, it doesn't scale. We need a systemic change to fix this. So ultimately what you're seeing in the workforce is a bifurcation, a split between people who are doing well and the masses who are struggling to get by, working multiple jobs, living paycheck to paycheck, barely able to scrape by, saddled in debt. 13 of the top 20 occupations with the highest projected new number of jobs to be created over the next 10 years pay less than $35,000 a year. These are poverty level wages in the US. A lot of people say, oh, people have always complained about automation and wreaking havoc on jobs and it's never happened, so therefore that must continue perpetually, which first of all is a logical fallacy. Just because something's happened in the past doesn't mean it's going to continue in the future. But the reason this time is different is because for the first time in humanity, robots, technology, automation, it's allowing us to automate away the human mind. This has never been the case in the past. When we invented electricity, the steam engine, factories, these allowed us to automate away a lot of manual labor, but not the human mind. You still needed the mind to direct everything. Now in many domains, the software is actually more efficient than the human because it can operate way faster, across vaster amounts of data than any single human could. Right now, self-driving cars are probably the biggest threat in terms of the labor market. There's something like 3.5 million truck drivers in the US. Truck driving is one of the last jobs where you could just do it with a high school degree and it could pay enough to provide for a family. But when those jobs are gone, where are these people going to go? Are they all going to become software engineers? I mean, it's just complete wishful thinking to think that things are just going to work out, because they're not working out now, and it's only going to get worse going forward. So a lot of people, when they hear about automation, they think, okay, there's going to be one moment in time where all the jobs are going to disappear and people are going to be screwed. That's not how it works. It's more of a slow hemorrhaging. It's kind of insidious in that it goes under the surface. It's not obvious. And it more plays out in the form of people dropping out of the labor force. There's been a huge drop off in the labor participation rate. You have people retiring earlier. You have people taking on lower quality jobs because it's the only job they can get. And these jobs often don't even pay enough to make a living. So you have to work multiple of these jobs, working 60 hours a week. These are jobs like working in retail, waiting tables, bagging groceries, whatever it is. They're not really career jobs, and they're the most precarious. Even a lot of these jobs aren't safe, but if you think about it, we could replace most cashiers tomorrow with self-checkout machines. It's already happening at a lot of places like Walmart, Walgreens. Why haven't the self-checkout machines completely replaced the people? Because labor is so damn cheap. There's such a job shortage. There's such an imbalance of people who want these jobs and the jobs available, to where the companies can pay as little as possible, and therefore it's cheap to them. So it's not even worth the time, money, effort, and hassle, not to mention societal backlash of automating away these jobs, replacing them with these self-checkout machines. And as long as labor is this cheap and people are that desperate for these jobs, that's always going to continue to be the case. Although these jobs will eventually just slowly get replaced and they'll disappear. But at this point, having somebody at a grocery store ring up your groceries and take your credit card and swipe it for you, although they don't even do that anymore, and then bag your groceries, that's more of a luxury that doesn't really need to exist. So when you see somebody doing that kind of job, ask yourself, does this job really need to exist? I mean, when I arrived at the airport here a couple weeks ago from South America, there were workers at the customs just like standing there and directing people to go into the line, like, yeah, come this way, like US citizen that way, not US citizen this way. Completely unnecessary job. You could just have a sign there that did all of that work. But these jobs exist because people are desperate for work. It's a complete societal waste. And that's what happens when you have an economic system that's based off of having people be dependent on having these jobs, dependent on working for people who have money. Essentially, the jobs available are dictated by whoever has the money, not what society needs. The thing is, there's plenty of work to be done. In New York City, you have a failing, outdated subway that's performing worse and worse every year. Most of the rest of the US doesn't even have public transit. And me getting to New York City from here, it still takes like a 4.5 hour drive, whereas in Japan, it'd probably be like a 1 hour Shinkansen ride. We still haven't cured cancer, heart disease, Alzheimer's, HIV. There's plenty of work to be done. There's just no jobs. So how do we fix this? We need a system where the jobs are put in place to actually benefit humanity rather than just being dictated by whoever has all the money. When you have a system like that, naturally you're going to have less jobs catering to the public good, and they're more catering towards making money off other people, advertising, marketing. I'm not saying let's eliminate the private market, but I'm saying when you have huge masses of unemployed people, people dropping out of the labor force because they can't find a job, or people just in jobs that they don't like, that they don't want to be in, that they feel are useless. Most workers find their jobs meaningless, which is unbelievable. It's amazing that this doesn't get more attention. It's like most people feel like their lives are meaningless. I mean, how is that not a national emergency? So basically, I think there are two routes we can take, or a combination of both. One is to create some kind of jobs program we can democratically decide on jobs. Maybe we can increase funding for science, technology, research, for curing cancer and all these sort of things. We already have these government programs like NSF and DARPA that fund these research programs, where often the results of this taxpayer-funded research is patented and then the profits privately siphoned off. Then maybe we can have more jobs that people feel are meaningful, that actually contribute to the common good rather than just existing for the sake of making a profit, getting somebody to spend money for some crap they don't need with money they don't have. The other option would be to just cut them a check and let them do what they want to do with their life, which I really like that option. That's universal basic income. I like it because it puts the freedom in the individual, but at the same time, I see value in having more jobs that are quality jobs that benefit humanity and maybe entice people to do work that they otherwise wouldn't. That benefits humanity. That's the key word here. That benefits humanity. It's something that doesn't get enough focus. We talk about jobs like there's some commodity. Jobs, like all jobs are equal. Just increase jobs and we're good, which is complete bullshit. There's a complete difference between quality jobs that benefit humanity and bullshit jobs that don't need to exist. Some secretary or data entry analyst doing some job that could be replaced by a script. These jobs don't need to exist, and nor should they. It's a complete waste of everybody's time. Again, I don't want to spell doom and gloom and depress people, because if you do work hard and you're successful and you're lucky too, you can make a living doing what you want to do, even if it's in the arts. All I'm saying is that there are inherently going to be people screwed just due to the way the system is set up, and it is completely morally reprehensible to just completely ignore this human suffering, this human-made human suffering that's going on and not doing anything about it. But fucking whatever, let's make money, blah. Okay, bye.
Tell me, do you know? Baby, tell me how you feel. I've been on the road.